Hey guys, I'm sure you've heard this term before. Global village. I keep hearing the world is a global village. But is it? Is it really a global village? Right, again, I'm using some notes, so excuse me if I keep looking away from you every now and again, right? In Africa, yeah, children are learning, well, in most African schools, they're learning European and US history, right? Okay. In the UK, at least I know in the UK, children are learning European history, okay? Um, so is it really that global? or or is everything twings towards the US and Europe, right? Now, this is not an anti-Europe or anti-US thing. I'm just trying to get a bit of balance here. Now, if it's so global, yeah, then what about African history? Especially for the fact that, we played a rather large part in European history, bearing in mind that many European nations came to, shall I say, rape our economies, okay, and our resources, etc., okay, and which played a large part in their own profiteering in their own countries, okay. So, but then again, all this seems to be ignored, right? So, is anybody teaching our kids about African history? That's my question today. Is anybody teaching our kids about African history? I know, for instance, there are some African countries that have even made this even worse. For instance, Nigeria, for about 2 decades, probably because of the military government, banned history from being taught at schools, which is absolutely absurd. Okay, so again, is anybody teaching our kids about African history? I don't know about any countries, other countries. If they're teaching kids about African history in your country, please let me know. Send us an email. Send us a message. Let us know what they're teaching them. Okay. The relevance of what I'm saying is this, right? Okay. The Europeans dismantled the systems in most African countries. I know, for instance, the French. What was the term they used again? I can't remember the term, but basically assimilation. Okay, basically completely do away with the system they found in whichever African country they colonized. All right, and completely implemented the French system into that African country. Assimilation. Okay, now so basically they completely decimated our systems and our cultures and replaced them with theirs. This happened right across Africa. In other words, we've been told for so long now that their way is the best. Now, we've been taught that their way is the best. We've been taught that their way of rule is the best, etc. Now, I'm not saying that ours is the best. In fact, right now, no African country can really stand up and say, hey, look, we're great, we're leading well, etc. Unfortunately, we let ourselves down in that particular area, but that's a matter for another day. Okay? Now, so we're taught European history, we're taught to believe that their way is the best. The result of all this is pretty catastrophic, everyone. Okay? Number one, no knowledge of our history or culture. Number two, no pride of heritage. For us, worse still, our children. Our children are going to grow up not feeling any connection to Africa, unfortunately. Many kids growing up in America, many kids growing up in Europe, by the time they're in their mid-20s, they have very little affiliation for their country of heritage or birth, etc. Okay? Number three, no passion at all for our countries. I recall watching the opening of the Olympic Games in London, 2012, right? And one thing I noticed was the pride in the face of most British people in that stadium. All right. Now I couldn't help thinking, am I proud to be a Nigerian? Are we proud to be Africans? Of course I am, but it can be quite difficult sometimes because there's very little to sort of dig into or hold on to, etc. Okay, so these matters are very, very important. So pride about our countries. And number four, well, we're risking losing another generation completely. I mean, to be honest with you, my generation's almost half gone. Yeah, I'm only really saved because of Izzy and Larry, to be honest with you, because I've had to do a lot of research on it and learn about different African countries. But what about those that aren't doing that? What about even those in Nigeria feel very affiliation, or those in African countries feel very little affiliation to the country they're living in? Very, very little pride to the country they're living in, because what they see right now is failure of government, failure of leadership, etc., etc. But guys, the more we are connected to our history, the more we are united and connected to our culture, right, the more we're united to make a change for the better in our countries, and the more we're passionate about our countries, the more pride we have about our countries, and the better chance of our countries being successful and prosperous later on. I always say this, guys: when we're united, we can achieve anything. Okay, when we're united, we can achieve anything. A little example: look at Nigeria in what was it, 2015? For the first time ever, an incumbent president was removed, right? Unfortunately, we've I won't say. If I go back in time now, I'll be a bit. I'm not sure I'll still vote for Buhari, but unfortunately, there weren't very many better alternatives. However, what I'm trying to say is that we all united in saying that enough was enough. We're tired of the corrupt Jonathan government, and we wanted a change. Okay, thereby voting in President Buhari. Okay, what he's done since he arrived is another matter entirely. Would I do that again? I'm not sure. However, my point is this, right? When we're united, we can achieve anything. Okay, but that unity must start from educating ourselves